Okay, so welcome everyone. My name is Shiver. I'm with the Office of Undergraduate Research. Welcome to the Undergraduate Research Education Series. Today we will be talking about translating your research experience into a resume, how to do all that, how to think about all of those, the ways that you can do that. And we will be learning all of that from Crystal Cory with the Center for Professional Development. I've done it wrong, haven't I?
Career and Professional Development Center.
There we go.
You were close.
There we go. I'm going to start us with a land acknowledgement and then talk about the evaluation and attendance and all of that, and then we will get started. Okay, so the American Indian Resource Center leads the way for me to acknowledge that the land that the University of Utah resides on has always been on Indigenous lands, specifically on the lands of the Shoshone, Paiute, Goshute, and Ute tribes. I encourage you all to think about the Indigenous peoples of whatever land you're on today if you're not currently in Salt Lake City as well. It's imperative that we acknowledge the enduring relationship that exists between Indigenous peoples and their traditional territories. Through this land acknowledgement, I want to express my personal gratitude and appreciation for their persevering to protect this land for future generations. The erasure of this relationship between Indigenous peoples and their traditional homelands is an insidious form of ongoing colonization, and we need to build our mindfulness of this and of other Indigenous protocols. And of course, my opinion, the best way to respect Indigenous peoples would be to give the land back. Okay, so then, education series, housekeeping. For those of you who have logged in, you are watching this session in real time. Your login counts. I can track that as is, so you don't have to fill out the evaluation form. However, it's very helpful to us if you do, and so I will drop the link to that in the chat as soon as we get started. For those of you watching this recording later and you want the watching the recording to count for your education series attendance requirement, please do fill out the evaluation form because that is the only way that I can track that you have watched this video. And you find that form just at the top of the education series page where you found the link to the video. So just scroll up, fill out that evaluation form and let me know that you were here. Okay, and with that, Crystal, take it away.
Me. I'm so excited to be here. Okay. Gonna share my screen. Right. So gotta get my screen set up. Here to talk about resumes. I will be talking about how to put research on your resume and some things around that, but also because resumes are complicated and they give students a lot of stress and anxiety. Some of the things that we're going to be talking about is more like general around that as well. So before we get started, I just wanted to say hello, hi, my office exists and share a little bit of information about it because I think I might be biased because I work there. I think we're a pretty cool resource on campus that can help you in a lot of different ways. I did recognize some names of people who are on the call today. So I'm going to put it to you all first. What do you know about our office? What can we help you with? What are some ways that we can support you in your career journey? And you can put that in the chat, unmute, whatever makes your heart the happiest. Spoiler alert, this is a very engaging presentation, and the sooner you get used to putting things in the chat, the easier this will be for literally everybody. Who knows some stuff about my office? I know some of you do because I recognize your names. Mock interviews, yes. Proofing resumes and CVs, yes. Good job, Aaron and Maya. What else can we help you with? What else do you know about our office? There are words on the slides that y'all could just copy if you wanted. Career fairs, yes, Maya. I appreciate your excitement, Maya, putting that in the chat with exclamation points. Anything else? So comparing careers with alumni who graduated with the same major. Yes, Aaron. Yeah, we have alumni data that we can help you look at to see what other people who have graduated from your program have done. Yeah, so the best succinct way I can describe me and my office and what we do is we help from career exploration to salary negotiation and grad school applications and literally anything in between. If you know exactly what you want to do and you don't know how to get there, if you have no idea what you want to do, if you're somewhere in between, if you're looking for internships, networking, like I said, grad school apps, mock interviews, like Aaron said, any of those things, we're happy to help. I'm going to give more information about the Career Studio and career coaching at the end of the presentation. But we do have tons of resources on our website and in Handshake. We have events throughout the year like career fairs Maya mentioned, also workshops and things like that you can attend. There's lots of ways to get engaged with our office. Our phone number, our email, our website are all listed at the bottom. We also have Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn pages with lots of really fun videos and information and things like that. So even if you're not ready for like a full-on appointment, there are ways for you to get passive information that can help you. Point of interest, we can support you for up to 2 years after you graduate too. So if you want to walk the world a bit and figure life out and then come back, we can totally support you with that. Yeah, and I'll put my contact information in at the end. So if y'all wanted to get together and chat, we can do that. So I always like to start my presentations with a check-in, especially when it comes to resumes, because they are ubiquitous and also very stressful for students because there's a lot of ambiguity there. So what I want you to think about is if you had to sum up either the status of your current resume or how you feel about developing a resume into a single word, what would that word be? And then whatever that word is, go ahead and put it in the chat so that we can do like a temperature check. Outdated. Maya, come on, man. Lacking, says Josh. At least you put like the frowny face, Maya, like you know that you need to work on it. Wordy, says Sandra. Yeah. Unsure, says Jacqueline. There's no wrong answers. I should have said that. Too long, question mark, confused, question mark, clustered, says Zach. Boring, says Brooke. Perfect, says Josh. Wow, we're feeling great. Decent, says Emily. Emily's kind of middle of the road, not quite to where Josh was at. Anyone else want to throw out their thoughts? I'll pause for like 10 more seconds. No wrong answers. This is a safe space. Almost up to date. Yes, we're getting there. Progress is being made. Totally. Cool. So I'm sensing, ooh, but Alberto, good question. CV or resume, those things are different. Resume specifically in this case, but yeah, those things are different. So it seems like we're in like the middle to like lower end of the spectrum, and that's totally okay. Hopefully for those of you who are not Joshua, who apparently has a perfect resume, we can start to get you feeling a little bit more confident, not only in what it looks like, but also what goes into it. So this is the agenda for today. We're going to talk about what is a resume, what the purpose is of it, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions around that. We're going to talk about what it looks like. We're going to talk about what's included on it. And then at the end, we're going to wrap up with how you can improve it and make it stand out. There is some dedicated time at the end of the presentation for a Q&A, but obviously I have the chat open. So if you have thoughts, questions, concerns, feel free to drop those in there and I will stop what I'm doing and answer those questions because this presentation is for you. It's not for me. And I want to make sure that you're getting out of it what you need to get out of it. So obviously a resume is a document with your skills and experiences on it. We know this. So what is the purpose of a resume? Why do employers ask for those? And go ahead and put those answers in the chat. Told you it was going to be engaging. Y'all didn't believe me. Here we are. To hire the best candidate, says Josh. Is that it? Is that the only answer? Just to hire the best candidate? A snapshot of your skills and experiences, a summary of qualifications, a concise list of qualifications, what you've done and what you can do, get a feel for who you are, to catch the eye, says Aaron. Yeah. Yeah, so it really is more about qualifications, I think, than anything else. I think a lot of students think that a resume is what gets you the job. Not the case. A resume is what gets you to the interview. It's where resumes specifically is where you prove those baseline qualifications, skills, experiences for whatever you're applying for. And then you prove those things when you get to an interview, which is a whole separate presentation. A couple people use the word snapshot or summary. That's important to note because the difference between a resume and a CV, and I know a lot of people use those things interchangeably, they are different documents. A resume is the French word that literally means summary, and a CV stands for curriculum vitae, which is Latin for your life's work, which is everything you've ever done. So don't feel pressure to put everything you've ever done on your resume, because that's not the purpose. It's really just about proving those baseline qualifications. So there are 3 things that resume should be. Spoiler alert, this is the structure for the presentation today. The first is concise. The second is accomplishment driven. So not just about what you did, but like what you accomplished and what you learned. And then the third thing is it should be tailored to what you're applying for. Like I said, this is the structure for today's presentation. So we're going to go in depth into all of these as we go, but keep these 3 things in mind as we move forward. But before we do all that, we're going to do a quick activity called Log Your Strengths. And I'm going to drop a worksheet in the chat. If you are on mobile, you're not going to be able to see this, but I'll send it to Shiver after so that she can distribute it out. It is a fillable PDF as a heads up, so you can click on it and fill it out. On the left side of the document, if you open it up, you'll see that there is a place for you to list experiences that you've had. This could be a project, a job, like getting your Eagle Scout, like literally anything. And then on the right side of the document, it'll give you space to write down the skills that you use to accomplish that thing. We're going to spend 3 minutes to get you all started thinking about this, working on this worksheet, and then we're going to come back and I'll have a couple of you share some of the things that you wrote down. No pressure, it's fine. So 3 minutes, go ahead and start working on this worksheet, and then we'll come back as a group, and I'll give you a 1-minute warning when we get there. For those on mobile, you still can do this, just if you have a piece of paper handy or even on your phone, take notes of experiences you've had and skills you use to accomplish them. But we have about a minute left, so start to wrap up those thoughts, y'all. All right, so we're bringing it back, 30 seconds, wrapping up those thoughts. There's going to be a lot of like singing instructions happening during this presentation too. Cool. So can I get 2 people to share one of the experiences that they wrote down and some of the skills they used to accomplish that thing? And because I'm only asking for 2, I will ask you to unmute and share with the group. I will also wait you out just as a heads up. Who wants to?
I can share one.
Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, so one of them that I put was teaching private guitar lessons, and some skills or strengths that I developed through that was creating a personal relationship with my guitar student, taking complex tasks and breaking into simple steps and simple goals, and then learning to teach effectively.
Yeah, excellent. So building rapport, adapting teaching style, explaining complicated concepts. Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Josh. Can I get one more person to share? See, that wasn't so bad. Come on. I literally need one person to unmute and share one of the things that they wrote down. Oh, Aaron put in the chat. Performed newborn hearing screen, which utilized interpersonal skills and clerical duties using programs such as Epic, Sound Data, High Track, and scanning documents. Yeah, excellent. So excellent work, Aaron and Josh, for sharing, breaking down the skills that you use to accomplish those tasks. That's very important. Can anyone tell me why they think I start off a resume workshop with this activity when it doesn't appear to be super resume related? And you can put that in the chat. I won't make you unmute for that. Helps to summarize most applicable parts of your experience. Yeah, definitely, Zach. Build your resume from your strengths. Yes, Shiver. Important to recognize what you've accomplished and present it in a coherent way. Yes, Josh. Any other reasons we can think of? Uses your experience to fit qualities they're looking for. It takes a lot of time. Experiences give skills if you weren't. Yeah, totally. It makes it easier to write it, basically, Emily, for sure. Yeah, and notice how even small experiences can impact build you. Yes, we're building confidence, Aaron. I don't think anyone has said that during a presentation. Thank you for noticing. Yeah, so it helps. It's a lot of what y'all said. So it helps to focus, right? If you know what you're going to write about, what you want to communicate to employers, it makes it easier for that to come across, right? I think it helps students kind of zoom out from the experience as opposed to focusing on like what you did day to day. It helps you realize what skills and strengths you built from those experiences. And because of that, it helps you realize that even experiences that you think are like not related are actually valuable. I think on the example it shows like barista, like we think about like, yeah, they make coffee, but if you think about what it takes to be successful as a barista, building rapport, keeping cool when someone's throwing their pumpkin spice latte at you, like those are valuable skills no matter where you go. So it helps understand what's called the transferability of those skills so that you can make those experiences relevant for employers. I know I only give you 3 minutes. That's not a lot of time. I didn't expect you to fill the whole thing out, but hopefully this was valuable to some of you and you can refer back to it or even continue working on it as you develop your documents moving forward. Thoughts, questions, concerns about that? Or are you all ready to get into the nitty gritty of resumes? Let's do it, says Vanessa. Well, if Vanessa says we got to do it, then we got to do it. Cool. So if y'all remember, concise, accomplishment driven, tailored, we're going to start with concise. We're going to start with a quick activity. On the next slide, I have 2 resumes, one on the left, one on the right. You really can't read what's on the resumes, and that's on purpose. You're not supposed to read the words on them. You're supposed to just focus on how they look. Congrats, you've all been promoted to hiring managers, and you're deciding who's going to come in for an interview. And what I want you to do is look at these resumes and tell me based solely on how they look and not what they say, which one you enjoy looking at more. How? Left or right? Seeing a lot of votes for the right. Ooh, someone said left. I'm gonna have to go up and find that person. Aaron's like, I just got this job. I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. So it looked like whoever voted for the left, I believe, said that it's because it had more information. But Zoom chat is not great at scrolling. So I can't find that again. Thank you, Joshua, for clarifying. Okay, so for people who voted on the right, why did you vote for the one on the right? Just cause. More concise, not crammed. It takes less work to read. More appealing. I think Emily means like the fonts are a little bit larger. Yeah. So take a guess for me, y'all. How long do you think the average employer looks at your resume for the first time they look at it? So like you hand it to them at a career fair, they pull it up in an email. How long do you think they look at it for? Give me like a time frame. 30 seconds to a minute. We're hitting like that 10, 15-second mark. A minute, 5 seconds. Anyone else want to throw their hat in the ring? We're kind of all over the place. Cool. The average is 6 to 9 seconds. That is all you get. And this is coming from employers, not from me. When they pull up your resume the first time, they're really looking for, like, they have a tiered list in their head of the qualifications they're looking for. So like, first, do they have this skill? Second, do they have this skill? Third, do they have this skill? And so on and so forth. And that's how they determine if they're going to give your resume a longer look. Do you think it would be easier to scan through the left resume or the right resume in that 6 to 9 seconds? Yeah, the right resume. I think a lot of students, when I say that you need to make your, Josh was like, I didn't want to say the right, but maybe it is. Man, you just completely derailed my train of thought. Okay. So when I tell students that they need to make their resume as concise as possible, some students input that message as, I need to cram everything that I've ever done into a single page, and then it looks like the one on the left. Theoretically, it's impressive because it looks like there's more details, and we just went through a hiring process. We're hiring a new coach in our office, and I was on the search committee. I can attest that when I pulled up resumes that looked like the left one, I was like, oh God, okay, we gotta go through this now. Reminder that resume means summary. You don't have to put everything you've ever done on there. Not saying leave out details on purpose, but you should be very focused on what your priorities in presenting the information is. So it looks more like the one on the right as opposed to the one on the left. Thoughts, questions, concerns about that? Cool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drop an example resume in the chat. Yes, Joshua, I do recommend tailoring each resume to each position you apply for, and I will tell you why at the end of the presentation. I'm going to drop an example resume in the chat. Spoiler alert, it's a chemistry one. I almost said it's a resume one. That doesn't make any sense. And what I want y'all to do is pick out, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, what you're seeing as being valuable in it. What stands out to you as a good thing? What stands out to you as a thing that might need some work or a thing you're confused about? We'll spend probably another 3 minutes doing that. And then we'll come back together and talk about it. I don't have a slide for this activity. This is a new one that I made for y'all. So that's why I stopped sharing. So take a look. Thank you, Erin. The short answer is no. I will get to that in a second. There's some caveats that I will discuss in a second. Oh no, Adobe's mad at me. Got like 30 seconds left, so start wrapping up your thoughts. If you have questions, things you like, things you don't like, you know, we can talk about all those things. And I'll keep sharing until we're done with the conversation. So, who wants to share some of the things that they're noticing in this resume? Man, my light is shining from the sun directly onto my desk and I can't lean forward or it's like in my face. Let's start with the positives. What do we like about this resume? And you can put those in the chat. It's easy to follow. Yes. The relevant experience and technical skills make up the majority of the resume. Yes. It's not cramped. I don't know if I said that, but thank you, Abby. What else do we like about it? Things are ordered from most important to least important. Yes, Josh. You get 6 to 9 seconds. You want to make sure that they can easily find the most important and relevant things for sure. What are some things that you maybe don't like as much or questions that you have about this resume? The dates are very clear. Yes, Erin. Is technical spelled wrong? Oh my goodness, it is. I've been sending this to students forever and I've never noticed that. So here's the thing. That's actually a good point because just because your resume looks nice doesn't mean it's like perfect, as y'all just mentioned. Like I've literally been using this resume for 2 years. I've had employers tell me that if they find spelling mistakes, not all employers, but some employers have told me that if they find spelling mistakes, they like throw it out because that means you don't have attention to detail. So like really go through it with a fine tooth comb. I've seen costumer service instead of customer service. I've seen all kinds of wild stuff. So make sure you're paying attention and not doing what I did and assuming that it was correct. Man, that's awkward. Thank you, Zach. What else, what thoughts, questions, concerns do you have that we haven't discussed yet? That's it. Just things are organized. All the fonts seem to be the same size. Yeah, that consistency. They could mention their coursework, Joshua. That is an option for sure. Especially if you don't have, like, this is kind of a later stage resume where they have like a ton of technical skills and they've like had, I don't want to say a significant amount of experience, but they've been involved. If these things are missing because maybe you're a little bit earlier on, that's definitely a thing that you can include. It's not required, but it can be nice. Yeah, cool. So what I'm going to do, for those of you who have access to the example, because you're not on your phone, keep it up because I'm going to reference it a lot. But I'm going to reshare because I want to talk through some of the nitty-gritty resume rules that we have. So section basics for the heading, things that you absolutely need is your name, your phone number, and your email address. Make sure it is an appropriate email address. You'd be blown away at some of the email addresses I've seen on students' resumes. I have a couple questions. Should GPA be included in this case? Yeah, include your GPA. You don't lose your job based on GPA alone, ever. It's just good for employers to know. What I will also say for STEM, the rule is 3.0 or higher included, but I've heard employers say if it's close to a 3.0, if it's a 2.7, 2.8, 2.9, like also include it. Pre-college information should be left out as a rule of thumb. I would say once you're in your second year of college, start to phase out that high school stuff. You don't even need to list high school on your resume. If you're going to college, we assume that you went to high school. Unless it was like a really significant experience, it might be able to stay. Or if it's still ongoing, like if it's a job that you've had since you've been in high school, like include that because employers like seeing it. I'm going to put this over here so I can see my own slides. If you're a member, you can include it as campus involvement. We'll talk about that. So heading, name, phone, email. Make sure they can contact you because again, you would be shocked at the number of resumes that I've seen where I'm like, so how do they call you? Like, education, which I will answer your question, Carrie, in this section. You need to have the name of the school, spell it out. I've also seen resumes with U of U on it, like spell it out, University of Utah. The location of the school, because the University of Utah has a couple different locations and other campuses also have different locations. As far as dates go, it's nobody's business how long you've been in school. They only care about graduation date. So only include graduation date, like expected graduation, May of 2022 or whatever. Spell out your degrees. Don't put a BS in chemistry, Bachelor of Science in Chemistry. You have the room to do it, just do it. And then we just talked a little bit about GPA. Other things you can include in education is if you're a double major, obviously you'd be including both of those. If you want to include your minor, if you've been on the dean's list, all of those things are included in education. Carrie asked if you transfer to university, you should include both. I think it depends on the person. My rule is like, if you just did your gen ed somewhere else for a semester, like if you didn't gain anything super impactful from that experience, then you can probably leave it off. Unless it like references an experience on another part of your resume. Like if you had a job on that campus while you were there and you want to include that, then I would include it because then they're like, why were you working at this random institution? But for the most part, if you don't think you got anything valuable from it, then it can probably go. I hope that was helpful, Carrie. Any other questions about the education section? If you have your associates, you should totally include it because that is a qualification that you have. That is a degree that you hold. Good job. We should connect and talk about this, Carrie. Max, I would say that the appearance of a resume is equally as important as the content. See, now that we're getting into the nitty-gritty, there's lots more questions. This is why I took some stuff out. Cool. So for the experiences section, and this is for professional and extracurricular experiences, you need 5 things per experience for the most part. There's a couple caveats, but I'm just going to throw this out there as a rule. And if y'all have any questions about it, we can like connect personally and talk about it more. You need the name of the organization. That could be the place you work, the organization you're part of, whatever. You need the name. You need the location. You don't need a full-on street address, just city and state is fine, but you need a location. Dates you were involved in that thing from start to finish. If you're still doing it, then that end date would be present or current, whatever word makes your heart the happiest. They mean the same thing. Your position title, that could be the job title, what you hold in the organization, even if that's just a member, which I had just mentioned, that's fine. And then you need bullet points to talk about your experience. So, what did you do? What did you get out of it? Stuff like that. So organization name, organization location, dates, title, bullet points. Thoughts, questions, concerns about that? Undergraduate research assistant for you, Rob. Yes. I've put everything from like ice cream scooper on a resume to like undergraduate research assistant. There's as long as it's your title, it's what matters. Questions about those 5 things for experiences? Again, that applies to jobs that you have held as well as student orgs that you're involved in. Cool. What are, in y'all's opinions, what have you seen are some optional additional sections in addition to heading education experiences? What are some other sections that you can include on your resume? Hint, there are some optional additional sections on the example I showed you. Projects you've completed. Projects is a huge one. I love seeing that on a resume. And you can do projects like from your coursework as well as things you've done on your own. Skills and certifications, research experience, teaching experience, languages. Yeah, all of those. I like that you guys recognize that you can split your experience sections because a lot of people don't do that. And I think that's valuable for employers. One thing I'll say about skill sections, just like, not that I think y'all are going to do this, but just throwing it out there. If you have a skill sections, focus on tangible skills that you have and not, ambiguous ones. So write things down like you can run an HPLC. Don't write down like leadership or teamwork because the rest of your resume should be showing that as opposed to you just like listing it. Cool. Presenting at conferences for sure. Yeah, you can put your involvement with professional organizations. Awards. Yeah, you can put scholarships and awards. Basically, you can put whatever you want. As long as you feel like it's a valuable thing for employers to see. Someone had asked earlier about going onto a second page. I think as long as all of the content you're listing is super relevant and also it can do at least a page and a half, then you're allowed to have 2 pages, but recognize that they're probably only going to look at the first one. If it's like a page in like a section, like, nope, we got to work on that. So there are many humans on the internet that have very strong opinions about how resumes should look. These are like the guidelines that my office suggests. Is only like these 4 things. The first one is margins from 1/2 inch to 1 inch. Don't go smaller than 1/2 inch because that's how much your thumb takes up when you hold a piece of paper. And also your printer just gets weird when you try to print that out. I've tried. So keep it between those. Font size 10 to 12. I would stray more towards the 11 to 12, depending on what font you're using, because you don't know the age of the person reading your resume. I've been in classrooms where faculty members are like, don't use 10 because I can't read it. Like it makes my eyes hurt. So try to be kind to those reading your resume. Fonts to use. These are options. Basically, the best way I can summarize fonts is like stick to the basics. Because if you're using a new font or a fancy font and you send it to somebody and their word processor doesn't have the same font package, they literally cannot read your document. So just, I know everyone hates Times. You don't have to use Times. There are other options, but stick to basic fonts if you can. And then no templates. And I'm going to explain more why here in a little bit. But by a template, I mean you're filling in like text boxes with your information. Not like someone sent you their resume and you deleted all of their information and put yours. Like when you're filling in the boxes, that's when things get problematic. For a format winning standpoint, if you wanted to customize sections, like we were just talking about, if you want to add in awards, if you want to add in different types of experience, it basically won't let you, which is kind of annoying for a lot of reasons. So stay away from templates. The best thing that you can do is to open a plain text Word document, Google Doc pages, whatever, and kind of work with formatting on your own. That way you have a lot more control over it. Questions about formatting before we move on? Pause for effect. Take a pointed drink of beverage. Cool. So accomplishment driven. This is kind of the meat and potatoes, the nitty gritty of what your resume actually is accomplishment statements, which is what our office calls bullet points. I recognize that I'm really bad at saying accomplishment statements instead of bullet points, but they're the same. You want to make sure that you're being really clear and really specific. And because of that, resume writing is unlike anything else because you're supposed to be concise and also detailed and also clear and direct, and it's a whole lot of things. So to make life easy, we've developed a formula for your accomplishment statements. The first thing you do is you're going to start with an impact verb, and I'm going to drop another file in the chat for everyone to see. And I'm going to get on like a little mini soapbox about verbs. So this is what I see as one of the most critical parts of accomplishment statements, because in those 5 or 6 to 9 seconds that I was telling you about earlier, this is really the first thing they're going to see. It is not.
Crystal, if you can hear me, you're frozen.
You know, it's funny. This always happens when I do presentations. It'll be fine the whole day. And then when I do a presentation, it's like, no. So we're going to try that again. Did my worksheet come through at least? Did that go in the chat? It's not a worksheet, it's a handout, I guess. Okay, cool. We'll try that again. So assisted is garbage is what I was trying to tell you. Especially students who are doing research tend to use assisted, but don't do that because it's non-specific. You could be doing all of the things, you could be doing none of the things. It could be somewhere in between, but I don't know because assisted is very non-specific. I see a lot of oversaw, I see responsible for. None of these are effective because they're not giving me information, right? On the bottom of that handout that I just put in the chat, it has a list of impact verbs that you can use. This is not like the end all be all list of resume verbs by any means. If you Google resume action verbs, literally thousands of lists will come up. Just the point is to get creative, be specific, try not to repeat yourself too much because that's going to help in those 6 to 9 seconds, the employer understand what you're trying to communicate with them. So impact verb, I'm stepping off my soapbox, don't worry. The next thing you should be talking about is the task that you were doing, which is the easiest part because that's what you're supposed to be writing about anyway. The third part, which I think is the most important, is the context piece. So this answers questions like, why were you doing that? How were you doing that? When, for who, what was the result? What was the impact? What are some examples? Any of those. You always need at least one context piece. Sometimes you need more. And once you start to get used to writing resume accomplishment statements, then you'll get used to when it feels short and know when you need to provide more information. But you need these three things for every time: impact, verb, task, context. Thoughts, questions, concerns about those things? Thank you, Josh. I'm glad that was helpful. So we're going to do a candidate comparison. You remember that time I decided that y'all got promoted and you're hiring people now? Well, you're deciding which candidate you're going to bring in for the last slot to interview for a student worker position in your office. These are sections of 2 of their resumes, and you're going to tell me which candidate you like better and why, the left one or the right one, who's going to get the interview. Joshua likes candidate number 2. Azim likes candidate number 2. Lots of people voting for candidate number 2. I always feel like an optometrist when I have this slide. I'm like 1 or 2, 1 or 2. Can somebody who I haven't heard from yet, who voted for candidate number 2, tell me why they like them better than candidate number 1? either unmute or put in chat. We just like candidate 2, we don't have a reason. More info. Can you tell me more about that? I don't disagree. I'm just wondering what context, says Azim. It's more specific, yeah. Did anyone recognize that these students are talking about the same exact thing, just in different ways? Azim's like, yeah. Ooh, there it is. Confident number 2 sounds more confident what they've done and why, but providing specific information that makes you believe it more. That's interesting. Instead of just answering questions, they provided resources. Also, we're in charge of scheduling appointments and not just assisting. See, assisting is bad news bears, Aaron. Had better wording, supported rather than responsible. Yeah. I know because I wrote these bullet points. Literally the only differences are the impact verbs and the context pieces. They're saying the exact same thing. These students did the exact same thing. It's all about how you present that, right? So I know it's probably a little bit annoying when I went on and on and on about verbs, but as you all just demonstrated, it really does make a difference. People said that they sounded more confident, like they were actually in charge of the tasks, not just like around when those tasks were happening. They really do make a difference. Especially that context piece, y'all were talking about how specific they were, which is helpful for employers to see. Thoughts, questions, concerns about that? I know I've been talking about assisted a lot, but I really do see that on a lot of resumes where students are helping with research because they think because it's not their project, they can't take ownership for it. You were still doing the thing, so you can 100% take ownership for that in your experience. Just throwing that out there. What do y'all think this formula means for talking about your research projects? What do you think are some areas of improvement for how your resume currently sits based on everything we've talked about so far? More confident about owning what you've done. Yes. Azim is like, we just need to throw it in the trash and start over. Aaron says hers is too passive. Theirs is too passive. Yeah, so take ownership of your experiences because it really does come across in the way that you write your documents. Take your impact verbs seriously, take your context seriously, be specific, and it'll make a huge difference for future employers. So tailored, as I said earlier, because someone asked, I do recommend tailoring your resume for every position that you apply for, and there's a couple different reasons why. The first one is applicant tracking software. This applies less when you're applying to work with a faculty. Like if you reach out to a faculty member and say, hey, can I be part of your research? Usually your resume is just going to them. But when you're applying for internships, when you're applying for at different companies and organizations, sometimes even at the University of Utah, they use something called applicant tracking software, or ATS for short. If you think about companies like BioFire, basically everybody in the College of Science and everyone in the College of Engineering wants to work for BioFire because they're a really good company. In a perfect world, they would have a massive HR department who filters by hand through every application they receive so that they can find the best candidate. In that perfect world, it would take forever to hire people because they literally get hundreds of applications for positions. And that's no good. They need some help. So they use ATS to help them out with that. The best way I can describe that, how ATS works, is it scans through the job description, it scans through your documents, and it comes up with a match percentage for keywords and phrases that it's programmed to look for. The higher that match percentage is, the higher up in the pile you go, and the more likely it is for that employer to pull that application and take a look at The lower that match percentage is, the lower in the pile you go, and the less likely it is for someone to actually pull your application and look. It's annoying, it's frustrating. I get it from a student perspective, but it's something that you kind of have to do in a modern job search. I'm not saying you need to rewrite your document for every, like completely rewrite it, but like there's spot changes that you can make. If on your resume you have collaborated and on the job description they have worked in a team, make that change so that it matches. I also want to say that if you're not willing to adjust your application for that job you're applying for, you probably don't want that job. So you can save everybody some time and just not do it and not apply. I had another thing that I was going to say and I forgot what it was. Oh, so usually what happens when I tell people about this is they come up with one of two ways to get around it. Do not put the job description in white text and 5-point font at the bottom of your document, because ATS is picking up on that and can tell when the signal to noise ratio is off. Basically, for every match word they hit, there should be a certain amount of words that don't. And if it matches everything exactly, it will flag that and say like something's wrong with this application, essentially. Also, don't word stuff, which is something that students do, where they just everywhere on their document put in those keywords and phrases, even if it doesn't make sense. At some point, someone's going to look at your resume and they're going to know that you did that. So spot changes, keywords and phrases, I promise it's not as bad as it sounds. And it doesn't always apply to research things, but when you're applying to internships and jobs and things like that, it does matter. So I did want to bring it up. We've talked a lot about resumes today, y'all. We've talked about what they are. We've talked about how they look. We've talked about how they sound. We've talked a little bit about how it applies to y'all writing about your research experiences and taking ownership of them and not being passive. What do you do with all this information? The first, if you found the Log Your Strengths worksheet valuable, keep working on it. Figure out what you want to communicate to employers. Figure out how your job that you've had since high school at Target is beneficial to you. I promise it is. And think about how you can communicate that. Create and format your resume. I know Azim's going to throw it out and start all over again. If that's you, that's cool. If you already have one and you feel like it can be worked on and improved, then work on that. We also have a career studio in our office, which is drop-in peer-to-peer career help. We have it both physically and also online. So if you want somebody to look something over really quick, there's the possibility of that happening. Before I do that, I'm going to talk about the career studio meeting with a career coach, and then I'm going to go back to questions. So like I said, drop in help with resumes, cover letters, with career exploration, with job and internship search. My cat apparently has decided that he wants to pretend that he knows what he's talking about. The hours listed on the slide are our in-person hours in Student Services Building 350. Every day from 8 to 5, we have a live chat on our website. It's a little orange bubble in the right-hand corner that says chat with us. I swear there's a real live person on the other side of that chat that is ready to answer your questions. So if you want a quick resume review and you're across campus, or if you have a quick question, how do I register for a career fair? They can help you with that. If you want more in-depth one-on-one help, then you can schedule an appointment in Handshake to meet with a career coach. It can be me, it could be any of the other coaches. We're all qualified to help you, but you have to do that through Handshake. If y'all aren't familiar with Handshake, that's where there are tons of internship and job opportunities. It's a nationwide job searching platform targeted for current college students and recent graduates. So it's a great place to start doing some career research if you haven't already. There's also an email that you can send resumes for review, and I will put that in the chat here in a second. That's also where we list all of our events, including our career fairs and panels and workshops and things